Hi, I'm Juanita Floyd. I work for Create Foundation. I've been there 35 years. I graduated from East Union High School in 1979.
I'm Ronnie Bell with Three Rivers Planning and Development District. I've been there since '08, but I live in Lee County here. Coincidentally, I graduated from East Union High School, East Union Attendance Center, they called it at one time, in 1979.
Ronnie was at 8th grade when you came to East Union. We met then, and Ronnie was just a great person, and I tell you all, he all the time, he was always messing with me. But it was a good thing. He was always calling me by a different name. You know, I go by Juanita. My first name is Cosette. And of course, he'd call me Goosey. And now, where he got that from, I don't know. But we had a great relationship.
Well, Juanita was easy to be friends with. Great personality, very intelligent. The nickname that that kind of stuck with her, it didn't originate with me. We had one of our teachers there at East Union, John Malcolm Hickey, gave Juanita that nickname, and it stuck. And so
that's right.
Here we are, what, nearly 60 years old, and
that's right. And it's
still Goosey.
A lot of people know my story, and I've told the story about how my mother prepared me for integration. So this was back in the 60s, and our school integration for me was in 1969. And that was a difficult period in my life. When you go from an all-black school and then you journey to another school where people who don't look like you, it's different. And in my case, it was really different because most of the students that were bused to B.F. Ford Elementary School, they went to W.P. Daniel in New Albany. And I had to go to East Union. And East Union, there weren't that many blacks in the grade. So it was a difficult time. But as I've told the story, because of my mother preparing me, because of me knowing my identity, who I am, my name is Cosette Juanita Gambrell. That's what I would have to say every day. Because she prepared me, it made a huge difference. And I always share this with people. In our class of 52, there were two blacks out of 52. And of course, I was one of them, and would have been the only black in a class of 51. But circumstances, another young lady came, and we were together. But that was difficult time. But with my mother talking to me and saying you gotta love, you gotta build relationships with people, and that's what happened for me. I started building relationships with those teachers, building relationships with the classmates, and so my time, it was good. Now there are a lot of people who will say that when the integration occurred, that it was not a good time for them, and initially it was not for me, but down through the years, it was great. It was great.
Well, Juanita talks a lot about her mother and her mother's influence on her and her life, and certainly I had a mother that is probably the biggest influence on me of any person that I know of. What she instilled in me was to always treat people the way you want to be treated. And so even with integration, I grew up in Nashville. When I entered public school in '67, integration in Nashville was just about complete at that point. I think they started back in the late 50s, integrating the first grade as the first grade in '57, and then one grade every year thereafter until it was complete, like in '68. But I really never had any issues being friends with people regardless of their skin color. I guess simply because of the way my mother raised me. And I think that, that extends to even our kids, or any kid out there. It depends upon what they're taught, as they come up.
I think because of my experience in attending East Union Attendance Center, as Ronnie says, it made a world of difference. I was exposed. I was around people who did not look like me. But I built relationships with people. I love this quote from Miles Monroe. He says, "True leaders don't invest in buildings. Jesus never built a building. They invest in people." So your legacy should not be in buildings, programs, or projects. Your legacy must be in people. And that's what I did. I built relationships with people. And so that carried on at Northeast. I went to college, went to Ole Miss. That carried on. I built relationships with people who didn't look like me. And then guess what? After you come out of college, you want a job. You need a job. And guess what? I got this fantastic opportunity to work for Create Foundation. I was the first black. And I love to tell the story. One of the leaders in this community, Jack Reed Sr., is the one who spoke up for me to an all-white board and said, "Why can't we hire Juanita? She's qualified." And so that was a leader who looked beyond my color, but looked at the qualities. I just graduated from this college. And so that once I got the job, then guess what? We deal with donors. And there were donors who didn't look like me. But I don't think that hindered me in any way. It's just like this. Treat people, as Ronnie said, as the way you want to be treated. And so when they would call in, hey, I was there for them. And it didn't matter what color they were or how much money they had or what their socioeconomic status was. So I think building on that from East Union, working with those white teachers. See, from first grade, I never had another black teacher. Never. From first grade, from second grade through 12th grade, through Northeast and through Ole Miss, I never had another black teacher. And so I say it was God's plan and purpose for my life, for my opportunity at Create, knowing that I would work with people who didn't look like me.
Well, we followed the same exact path. I went to Northeast and on to Ole Miss, got an accounting degree just like Juanita. So, even with what she talks about, her mother being somebody strong in her life and the pathway that she took, we took pretty similar pathways. But nonetheless, I had black classmates from outside the U.S. As well. And thinking back, I always say this, the devil's in the details. I think one of the Covey steps was seek first to understand, then be understood. That's kind of the way I've tried to live my life, regardless of what the circumstance was. Race being one of those. I try to put myself in other people's place, regardless of what the circumstances are, first and foremost. And then after that, it's a matter of the heart, in my opinion.
I think it is very important to find that common ground, to find mutual respect for each other. I think if we have mutual respect for each other, I think we can move mountains with each other. That common ground, as Ronnie stated a few minutes ago, if you have that if you're taught to love everybody, if you're taught to respect everybody, then that, to me, that's the common ground. We may not all have the same culture or do the same things. We may not all go to the same church. We may not all like the same things, but we all can have respect for each other and each other's abilities and what we all bring to the table.
There's no question that people you socialize with, people, even in the family, the people that you're closest to are the ones you have the common ground with. So it extends, starting with family first and then friends outside of family. I mean, we're all citizens of Lee County, state of Mississippi. We're all U.S. citizens. We all The Bill of Rights apply to all
All
of
of
us.
us.
And, you know, it's equal to everybody. It's offered equal to everybody, and it ought to be that way. I say look at things through your heart. You know, a lot of the issues we see out there today are heart issues. And so that would be the first thing that would come to mind. Solve your problems locally. I think Mr. McLean said nobody's coming from Jackson to solve our problems. Well, nobody's coming from Jackson or Washington to solve our community problems, and we need to work together as part of the community to do that. Be careful who you allow to come in to try to help you solve your community's problems. So I think it's important that we work together with people that we know and we trust.
Well, I think Ronnie just summed that up for me. That is exactly right. A lot of our issues today are heart problems, as he says, and I think if we have a heart to love, a heart to respect each other, a heart, just that plain old heart, I think we can find, we'll find that those issues that divide and separate us, again, we can all sit at the table if we respect and love each other. As I stated earlier, you don't have to agree with what I do or all of that, but if we can have that mutual respect for each other, and as Ronnie said, sit at the table, if we can all sit at the table and talk to each other. I think that's what's missing. I think we're doing a lot of yelling and a lot of shouting at each other, and we're not talking to each other to, as Ronnie said, to seek to be understood on both races or any race. I think that's the key issue, us coming together, talking to each other. There's something that I love in our Constitution. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And if we could only just read those words and understand that we are all created equal. And if we're created equal, then we all can sit at the table and talk with each other.
You never signed my annual. Now, I got a story now. My wife is kind of a resident of Red Hill.
That's right. That's
which
right.
Which is where Juanita grew up. But anyway, you know, we got our annuals after the school year was over, and we were already at Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
So you never signed my annual.
Oh my goodness!
You're gonna sign my annual today as a memento of this occasion.
Shall I date it? No. I'm gonna sign it.
We won't look at the pictures.
No, please not. And I'm gonna read this. And I think it will speak to the very heart of what we all are talking about, racial issues and seeking to understand each other. And this is just exactly what I said. Ronnie, I love you. Thank you for being my friend down through the years. Juanita.
Thank you, Juanita. Love you, girl. Now, wait a minute.
Oh! All right, y'all.
No, you don't have to film this, but
Okay.
I didn't get to make the books.
That's all right. Oh, I'm gonna cry, y'all. As I alluded to earlier, Miles Monroe said, "Don't invest in buildings, invest in people, invest in relationships." In 2007, a young white female executive director of United Way invested in me by inviting me to be the keynote speaker for a day of caring with over 500 people in attendance. Dr. Seuss said, "Oh, the places you'll go." Since that United Way event, I have had an incredible opportunity to speak all over the state of Mississippi. This February 2020, I stood in the Capitol speaking to the Senate. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, United Way, for investing in me. Thank you for building relationships and making a difference in my life.